All right, today we're diving into a really important topic in franchising, territories. So you're probably wondering, why is territory such a big deal? Well, it's because your territory decides where you can operate, so who your customers are, and ultimately how successful you can be. But here's the thing, not all territories in franchising are created equal, and the size of your territory can vary dramatically depending on the type of business that you're investing in. So let's talk about the differences a little bit, starting, for example, with a restaurant franchise. Okay, so restaurant franchises, you're just going to be looking at the opportunity in a different way. The territory is going to be probably pretty small, possibly just a few square miles, because restaurants rely heavily on the local traffic. You're not going to drive 50 miles to grab a burger and a pizza. And if there's another option down the road and closer, you might stop there. So your territory typically is going to cover enough population to support your location without overlapping into somebody else's territory. Now compare that to something like a home services brand, and like a cleaning service or pest control, plumbing. Those type of territories are generally going to be larger. So in this case, you need a larger territory. It's not as repetitive of an income, and you're driving to your customer rather than your customer driving to you. You're more willing to travel, we'll say. And so, what that means is that you do need enough space and a significant number of homes. Your territory might be based on household income, especially if you have a lot of rural markets, that type of thing. But remember, the territory map is going to look very different than from home services to a restaurant. Now imagine if you're looking at a B2B franchise. Okay, so business to business franchises, sometimes they don't even have territory delineated. So it's not based on geography. It could be based on the amount of business counts in your market. It could be based on the amount of businesses over a certain square footage, or a business that's developing this much, or basically generating this much revenue. We'll say 200 to 300 small to mid-sized businesses could be your territory. And in fact, a lot of B2B, it's not territory specific anymore because of course of kind of the global economy. So keep this in mind as we start to talk about territory, when we get into the FDD and we start talking with the brands, that a home services franchise is going to have a larger territory than perhaps a restaurant or a brick and mortar franchise. One of your opportunities there could be, if you want more territory, you're going to have to buy multiple franchises in order to kind of get your elbows out in that market. So I think the biggest thing here is that we need to remember that the territory size definitely matters. The franchisor is not trying to set you up for failure, but they also don't want to leave money on the table. So population density is going to come into play, not just miles or square footage or as the crow flies, but how many households in that territory, what is the household income? Sometimes it's how many dogs are in the market. Is it a dog-friendly community? Is going to affect, a brand that caters to dogs. So franchisor is going to have guidelines for you as you start to look at your territory and you dig deeper into the model, and you can work with the brand and dig into those guidelines, essentially making sure that you can succeed within their guidelines. You don't want to be restricted, but you also don't want to be kind of responsible for a giant territory that truthfully you're never going to be able to touch all the corners of the market. You want to be able to make sure that with the brand that you get into, that you can optimize the territory that you're in. You're not leaving money on the table, and neither is the brand. So you just want to make sure that you're asking the right questions when we get to that discussion point. It's usually, I'll say, call 2 or 3 with the franchisor. They're going to start to address territory size. So definitely be ready for that. We can talk about that in the FDD. That item 12 addresses territory, but I just kind of wanted to get in front of the fact that it's going to look different based on the brand, but more importantly, the territory is going to look different based on the industry.